Yeah. I thought you said there was one.
No, there should be.
Call the meeting to order, please.
Oh,
The picture one?
yeah. Can I make that joke on the air? Oops. No.
That should all be there.
Oh, mirrors? Or
There you go. Okay, we'll do attendance first. Looks like Nancy's here.
Christy's house?
Christy will not be here today.
Okay. That's the second one.
Okay.
Oh, no. Steve's gone?
Jason?
Won't be here, and Christy will not be.
Okay.
Christy will not be here. Nancy's here. Joanna's here. Jory. John. Christy's not here. Mayor's here. Stephanie's here. Craig's out. Steve will not be here. Dave is here. And I miss. Gio's here.
Yeah.
That it? It's everybody. Okay. And approval of the agenda for today. Need a motion and a second?
Move to approve. Second.
All
Gio, yes.
in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
One question I had was, I believe I made a statement a little bit ago that Steve was here last week, and I don't see his.
Steve's name added to the attendance.
Yeah, on the attendance. Steve was here last week. And otherwise, I don't have anything else. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Citizens input.
Used it up on last night.
Okay. And director's report.
Great to be back with you. Happy June. Farmers Market is going to be the first one. It starts Saturday. The open for vendors at 8 in the morning. Start selling at 9 to 11. I probably have about 8 confirmed already, but we're also letting them come to they can sign up the morning of if their stuff is ready to go. So that'll start out in the plaza. There'll be yoga for the supplemental activity going on as Yoga Flow with the hotspot that day. First Fridays is this Friday. So if you haven't thought about going there, First Fridays at the plaza. Last month highlights graduations. We had Mitchell High School. We had 3 sections, or 1 section of Mitchell High School, 3 sections of Mitchell Technical College and Dakota Wesleyan. The FFA banquet and Mitchell High School Athletic Banquet. Pulled some early visitor numbers for the first, from January 1 through the end of May. We are up 3%. At 125,596 people through the doors. That's what I have.
Excellent. Any comments? Okay. Sponsorship list.
You guys will have in your packet a sponsorship list. This is from part of last year, or this is last year. Obviously, there's more names to add, and if you find them, please add to them. But we want to make sure and cover this list. Craig and I have taken some of those names, and we'll make those asks. But if there are people, even with Craig's name or my name by them, that you feel like you've got a strong relationship, please just let me know so that we can go and visit with those people and ask them if they would like to participate, help support our festival this coming summer. And we that'll be the master list. So if you would you please just shoot me an email if you have somebody that you spoke to, just so I can keep tally on in case somebody else calls me up or sends an email and says, hey, has anybody talked to? That way we'll kind of keep a master sheet going. I thought we would get it done today, but I have a great big huge list that I'm working on, but the data's not all into that. So you'll get that as well. But this is those who have supported in the past and those that were approached in 2024. Any questions for me on that? Any further discussion?
With there being none, jump-starting marketing for Friday night festival concert.
Yeah, as you guys saw, I didn't get back to my social media because I'm at work, right? I didn't go on social media today, but we had some pretty good traction with the Friday announcement. Last I saw, it was almost 30,000 views, 20 some shares, and I can't remember the rest of the engagement, but the Micah Tyler announcement. One of the things that I was thinking about and wondered if there would be a volunteer or two, and I started by asking Christy if she would consider it, would be having two members of the board just kind of champion Friday night to catch us up, to make sure we get maybe a plan of what we think would be the most effective way for us to move tickets, and let people know that the show is happening along with the other Corn Palace shows. And so I would take some discussion just on that, ways to reach out to this demographic, churches, youth groups, other communities, ministeriums, places like that. And then that group would help set a plan that then the rest of us can support, was my thought. And I would also consider that if people would like to do that with Justin Moore and with Brett Michaels, just as a way to keep us every week staying on track with trying to get the word out about those concerts. So I'd open that up to discussion.
I know this is kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but I can reach out to both Fusion and First Methodist Church, because I have connections there. So you can count me in for both those, the two Methodist churches in town, basically.
Perfect.
I'll write that down.
Yeah, I'm happy to coordinate and help with reaching not only churches in Mitchell, but the other surrounding communities as well.
Excellent.
I'd take to whatever I need to do to get that.
Why don't we go ahead and take a motion then for Christy and Tim and Jory, Joanna, jump in and out where you want to, especially, and then if you have a connection to those youth groups, any of those at your own church, go ahead. Just let that group kind of know, kind of like we're talking about with sponsorship. I think we can streamline it a little bit then and just execute that way, if there's any other discussion. But I think we would entertain a motion.
Okay.
In that.
Well, since it's on the agenda, it should be good to go. We'd entertain a motion for our board members, select board members, to take the lead on that, on the Friday Night Festival concert.
I motion first.
Okay. First and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor say aye.
Hi.
And opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Revisit and open discussion on concessions, general operating procedure.
This board had asked one of my first meetings, I believe it was January, to take a look at just some and bring back to the table in June, for the June meeting, some discussion just about concessions in general, like if there were baselines that we could establish in terms of if the building has X amount of paid attendance or things like that, that would automatically trigger some other things, like it would open a second concession stand as an example. I think there were Tim had originally brought us a sheet that talked about several different areas from training to those kind of setting some baselines. Tim, anything more? That was so I'm bringing it back to you as a discussion now. It can be considered further, discussed today. We can table it, whichever you like, but that was the request that I bring it back to this group, at least for opening today.
Yeah, so I think my original intent with the concessions policy is I think that there needs to be some kind of number associated with the number of tills and stands that we have open based on expected attendance for events. And then if an organization that's renting the Corn Palace would like us to go above that, there needs to be a fee associated with that. And so if you have an event that, say, is going to host 100 people at the Corn Palace and you've rented the building, that's fine. We'll have one concession, one till open. And if you say, well, no, all 100 people are all coming at once and I want 4 tills open, 2 windows open, then there needs to be a fee associated with that. I think because there's a limited time that you can capture sales. And so I think that if there's going to be a cost incurred and maybe not the sales that we would need to recoup those costs, it should be passed on to the person renting the space, in my opinion.
And do you have any idea what those numbers should be?
And I guess that was part of my hope is that Craig and Dave could get together and come up with those numbers and kind of see what they do. I know that they have been working on that the last 6 months. And so developing that plan, since I'm not on the ground day to day, I would not be capable, I guess. I mean, I could help them certainly figure it out, but at least a baseline. And then I also think for the first year or two, you might need to adjust it as we see how things go. So that way there is clear expectations for our renters and for the staff. I think both would be good.
One of the things that had been provided in that early document, which I believe everybody got a copy of back then, was that 0 to 500 was 1 window open, 501 to 1500 was 2 windows open, and I believe windows operating 2 tills, and then operating 501 to 1500 would be 4 tills open, so it would be both sides essentially. So anything over 500, according to just an initial range for us to start out with, that was what was given as a baseline.
I'd be curious if we could specify by event type maybe as well there. I'm just thinking like a basketball game needs are maybe different than, I don't know if they're different than a concert, but I mean, just trying to think of what other events are in here.
Well, you got your graduation and like your dance and your rodeo and
Boxing, things that are,
Yeah.
I mean, I think those numbers that Tim provided are probably a good baseline to start with, and then maybe we just implement it, and then if it doesn't work, you adjust it. Nobody gets it right the first time.
Do we know how much increase the cost is on us adding a till and people per till?
I think we have the general guidelines of what our cost is.
That would help determine what
We don't have those numbers available.
Well, and I think initially not having a fee in place is fine, but it's just something to be aware of that in a year or two time after you've developed that number. Because I think for the first year, maybe you err on the side of caution and have too much open, and then you can start scaling it back, I think is the right way to do it. That in the service industry, being too service filled is probably better than we're just trying to skip back all the way. I don't know, that would be my thought on that. Because it's not only just the workers, but also the food product and all of those other expenses that you would have from having the stand open itself that sometimes get forgotten in that process.
I worked in the concession stands for a couple of days, and it is weird because sometimes you think you're way understaffed and you're not, and sometimes you think you're overstaffed and you're not. And the rushes are nuts. I mean, it'll be 100 people at once or 0 people for an hour. It's tough. So we probably should get something figured out with numbers.
one of the ideas floated as we're talking about concessions was that we would, part of this Craig and I had talked about a few. Were there pressure points within the menu that we could alleviate some of the counter pressure by, as an easy example, having popcorn off to the side with the choice of maybe just water, so anybody who was looking either for just water or just the popcorn or popcorn and water wouldn't be waiting in line necessarily. Not that you couldn't get that at the other booth or at the concession stand as well, but maybe if it was targeted, we would take pressure off of some points and allow people to just come up and say, yeah, I just need a bag of popcorn, I'll take one popcorn, and we would find a cadence that would allow us to, or maybe it's a hot dog, whatever, but something that would take and free up a little bit of space and continue to make it a better customer service situation for
Well, you know
our
what your
guests.
yeah, you know what your sales are. I mean, you know what you sell the most of. So
Right.
let's say it's that scenario: water, soda, popcorn,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, I think we know that our top sales are fountain soda, water, large popcorn, small popcorn, something, and then a popcorn ball, right?
And
It's
you
really
could,
close to
That's
that.
our top five
yeah,
easily.
and you could set up something separate just for that.
Right.
Obviously, still being able to get it at the other stands, but have that as a kind of giving it a better flow.
Yeah, we talked about setting up some satellite stations or whatever you want to call them, and then quick line and then long line for hot food or whatever.
Yeah, because if I see just popcorn and water, I want to get that right away. Okay, let me get it and go.
Yeah.
Yep.
You gotta wait.
And you don't want to miss sales by waiting in line.
Your busiest times are obviously like your quarter breaks, halftime breaks for basketball, right?
Yeah, and we've got such great basketball fans that they all wait till the buzzer
Certainly.
sounds and then all come at one time. So, understandably, but that's when that happens. So, the other thing we've actually talked a lot about, as we're just talking about concessions, is we're trying, as one of those satellite situations, what is something on the stage or near the stage or in a corner over there? What does that do if that capacity is about 700 seats? What would that look like? Could we service out of the main concession, stay in the northeast corner of the gym? Could we set up a pop-up stand that still might just be water, soda, popcorn, and bring it across and bring it in, but that would save some of the line from coming across and getting bigger in those situations, depending on the event, of course. Obviously, if we're having something on the stage, it's hard to, there's nobody coming off the stage except the artist. So those are all things that we kind of have talked about, knowing this was ahead of us. And
We also talked about kind of like circus style and sending people up and down the aisles.
yes,
But-
that was another one.
We just haven't pulled the trigger on anything yet.
And then outside of this discussion, the other piece to the concessions operations, I don't believe outside of Memorial Day to Labor Day, the concession stand in the Corn Palace needs to be open unless there's an activity or event that's correlated with that. That like
You said from the winter months.
so the winter months.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, that the concession stand currently operates and sells the popcorn, candy, soda, but I don't feel like the sales justify the cost in that time frame.
And I think we moved towards operating that the last few months before, right?
Yeah,
And we've moved that direction.
for sure.
I will say the only, I think, drawback of that is the popcorn balls. Because the popcorn balls are really popular and we have people coming to the gift shop that want to buy them. So I don't know if there's like a deal where the gift shop could sell them, but all the money went back to you guys because the gift shop will be open anyways. And we don't want to, I don't know, that's just something we could talk about too. Like if you guys still wanted to sell the popcorn balls, and the gift shop sold them, but money and profits went back to you guys, that might be an option too.
Yeah.
That's a great solution.
And I'm sure they would be, I mean, I'd have to talk to Derry and Jen, but I'm sure
Sure.
they'd be willing to do that. So
I know we had talked about, somebody had said, what about vending machines? I think there's a lot of things still on the table that could be, a pop machine that you had there so that we could still provide a good experience for the guest who was here, a candy machine, and that also, those would could also be used then during events too. So if you felt like the line was long and there was nobody here, you could go ahead and get something as a snack then. So
And we just don't know what works, so we're just going to have to try some stuff and eliminate what doesn't and lean into what does.
right. I guess that answers a lot of questions for me. How would you? I guess I feel like how would the board like Craig and I to proceed, or myself to proceed from this discussion? Unless you have more, I don't mean to cut off.
I think that covered a majority of the topics. I think that for me personally, it's continue to evaluate it. I don't know that we need to table this. We can just move on for today. For me personally, and then at some point, I would like to see some kind of numbers, hard numbers in front of us, with approval in a future meeting.
I think we talked earlier about that, about letting the people that, especially Craig, that's more than familiar with the operation overall, to develop some kind of a plan. Dave and Craig doing that, and then with later on and looking at it again and see how it develops. Taking some of that what we discussed as a guideline.
Okay.
For that.
Perfect.
I do think the plan for Corn Palace Festival concerts, like the satellite, I think that's probably something that we need to have. I don't know whether it's July or August.
Okay.
Maybe just having that in order, and how are we going to communicate that to concert goers, right? Like if you're looking for popcorn, whatever that is, they need to know what that plan is too. Because I know that was I think that was a pretty heavy critique. Was it Scotty?
Yeah, there was only one stand open last year.
Yeah, I mean one of the concerts or both, or I don't know what it was, but the line was,
And the number of offerings was reduced, and there was no hot food. And I think that people wanted hot food. I think the initial thought was that people would be able to be out on the fairway getting food and then coming into the concert. But so many of the fans were loyal and showed up as soon as they could to get their spot or seat. And then some of them were in the building for 2 to 3 hours and wanted some kind of something to eat, hot food related.
Yeah, and you couldn't leave.
Couldn't leave.
Once you walk in, you're in.
You're in. Okay. We'll work on that and have something for you on the July report.
Any further discussion? Otherwise, we can head on to number 10, unveil. We have some Corn Palace murals to unveil.
We do. We got back the colorized version. You should all have it in your
America.
packet. And now,
Hey, I wasn't smiling, Marshall.
sorry,
America.
I don't. Let's see. I got it. Oh, right here, right? There. Sorry.
250 years.
So 250 years of America will be our
Mary,
murals.
you're in the picture.
Every time I look up, I smile and he's like, I will say Lewis and Clark's legs look awfully thin.
And they are in the process of some of the grass is coming down, and they're getting started again. So there
Okay.
we are.
So now that we have this, and this
Yes.
is maybe off topic, are we allowed to start our RFP process?
Yes, we talked about it a little bit this morning, and we're going to get the last piece that we're waiting on, which was actually
Digitals?
the actual size and then the digital of this, so that
Perfect.
we can
Okay.
do that part of it. But Jeff and I had that discussion this morning to
Great.
make sure that we could close the loop, knowing we would announce this today.
Yeah, and just to be clear, what they're talking about is potentially having contractors come in, or putting a request out for contractors to come in to do the work of actually putting the murals up, but all of the other work on the Corn Palace will still be in-house, right?
Yeah.
That is correct, and
Yep.
it would happen. The part that would when that would happen is when our local youth who are helping as a part-time job during the summer go back to the high school or go back to the college, because that's when our labor force drops so drastically that we would then bring on a set of reinforcements and maybe a crew too if
Yeah.
in
And the
that-
intention and goal is to have it done by like Thanksgiving, I think.
Yep.
So then we don't have to worry about decorating through the winter. And our poor guys are freezing their little fingers off.
Yeah.
And it also plays directly into the year that is the whole year of 250 years of America.
Yeah, that's true.
So
It's a good looking eagle.
So there you are.
All right.
yeah, kudos to Dakota Wesleyan for coming up again with great designs. I think they do a great job. So kudos to those students and their hard
Absolutely.
work.
Absolutely.
Any further discussion on the murals? Otherwise,
Sorry, just a question. So these two, We the People and the American flag, are going to be the big ones on the front, correct? And then these ones, and then the long one there.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Sounds good.
Yeah, this is the order it'll go on from left to right, I think.
I
Yep.
believe that's how they're put together. Correct.
yes. Yeah, this I did the long one. Cool. All right. Executive session. We need a motion and a second to enter executive session, please.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Geo second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Bye.
Aye.
And opposed,
Aye.
same sign. Turn off your mics. Okay, we are out of executive session. We need a motion and a second to approve. Which one was it? It was the
Food and vendor pricing for 2025.
food and beverage pricing for 25-26. 2025-2026.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to approve the pricing on the flyer minus the two prices at the bottom. That-
Any further discussion?
I think that it's good that we revisited that, and I think lowering some of those prices in reflection of feedback we've gotten has been good for. I mean, it's good to listen to people and hear that and make those changes. So I'm excited for that.
Any other discussion?
And this is, and we're talking specifically in this one about like our
First Fridays and
First
other-
Fridays.
First Fridays.
Or, okay.
Yeah. And so
Okay. Once again, any further discussion? Have a vote. All in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Let's see. Motion for the Corn Palace director to sign the Friday night artist concert contract.
well, at this point, we can name the artist.
Yeah.
But
But I move to authorize the Corn Palace director to sign Micah Tyler's contract when it becomes available.
I'll second that.
further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Quick, one other one. Was that it?
I think that's it.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.